Hey, welcome to Film vs. Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name's Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and accused of war crimes by public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one's going to tell you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And today is our Oscars edition episode. Instead of what we typically do where we debate one movie, we will be debating one of the most controversial Oscar picks in recent memory. And that is, of course, giving Best Picture to Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. I know we're going to get into talking about all that, but before we get into this, I just need to know, what were the other movies nominated for Best Picture, and what was this, 97?
This was the 99 award. So these are movies that came out in 1998. Okay, the other Best Picture nominees were Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, and The Thin Red Line.
Okay, yeah, Saving Private Ryan should have won.
Yeah, I think that was the big upset because it was the front runner for most of awards season, and so come Oscar night, everyone was just shocked. Shakespeare in Love won because it was the front runner to the point that years before Schindler's List, which was also directed by Steven Spielberg, won Best Picture. And for that ceremony, they had Harrison Ford, who of course worked with Spielberg on Indiana Jones, announce Best Picture so they could have the photo of him giving the award to his longtime collaborator. They got Harrison Ford to announce Best Picture for this again, thinking we're going to get the same shot. It did not work out for them. So I guess first, let's go through the plot and production history of Saving Private Ryan. So we're going to go through the plots much quicker than usual. So Saving Private Ryan, it opens on D-Day in Omaha Beach with a big battle. On D-Day, 3 out of the 4 Ryan brothers die in action, and not wanting one mother to lose all her children in war, Army officers decide to send a team of soldiers to bring the last one home. And so a group of soldiers venture through Normandy and France. They end up through enemy territory. They lose 2 men along the way. They finally find Private Ryan, but before they can bring him home, they make this grand last stand against the German army, where all but one member of the original group die. And so the movie ends with an old Private Ryan visiting the grave, just contemplating if his life was really worth saving. And so for the production history, it was written by Robert Rodat, whose biggest credit outside of this is The Patriot with Mel Gibson. A producer brought it to Tom Hanks, and at the time, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg hadn't worked together yet, and they really wanted to. So he brought it to Spielberg, and once you have Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg on a project, the ball just really gets rolling.
Yeah, they're just throwing money around.
Yeah, pretty much. Just that's one of those write me a check movies.
You could get a wife and she's like, I think I want to start an open marriage. I want to open up the marriage. And the husband's like, oh, I'm not really quite sure about that. And she's like, well, I got Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. And he's like, shit, well, let's open up this marriage.
Yeah. It's like at that point, you're not even a cuck. You're just smart negotiations. So yeah, but Steven Spielberg did a lot of research for this. He's interviewed a lot of veterans and families who lost multiple sons in World War II, and it ended up paying off. It's commonly referred to as, specifically, the opening Omaha Beach scene is considered one of the most realistic depictions of combat. It was to the point the VA actually set up a separate phone line for those affected by the film. Yeah. And they did note an uptick in veterans visiting counselors after its release. And this was also Vin Diesel's big breakout role. Before this, Vin Diesel just had a couple of self-directed films he starred in that play at some film festivals, and apparently Steven Spielberg saw one of them and thought he'd be right for the role.
Who was he in the movie?
he was the first. He was in the group of soldiers. He was the first one that died. But at the time he was cast, he was working as a telemarketer. So you know, if it weren't for this movie, we would also be missing out on the entire Fast and Furious franchise. And funnily enough, Steven Spielberg wanted an unknown actor to play Private Ryan. And so while visiting a different film set a couple years before, he ran into Matt Damon, met him, and later decided to cast him. That film set was for Good Will Hunting, which made Matt Damon an overnight star a year before this film came out. So the film was released July 24th, 1998 on a budget somewhere between $65 and $70 million. It made $482 million at the box office, currently stands at 94 on Rotten Tomatoes, 8.4 on IMDb. It won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. Again, considered one of the most influential war movies in modern cinema, and it's credited with renewing interest in World War II.
Best director, not best picture.
Oh, yes, but did I say best picture?
Yeah.
Okay, I meant best director.
I was like, wait, isn't that what we're talking about?
It's like I actually just rewrote history, so we don't have to do this episode anymore. All right, so on to Shakespeare in Love.
Okay, I just want to point out, Belton will be defending Shakespeare in Love, and this is a much longer plot summary. I feel like.
I mean,
there's a little more happening.
Yeah, I mean, because Saving Private Ryan, I could sum up a lot of it with and then war happens. I can't really just do that with Shakespeare in
and
Love.
Somehow violence returned.
Shakespeare in Love. We basically opening a theater owner in 1593. London is in serious debt, and so he agrees to put on a play by D. William Shakespeare, but he has not finished the script yet. This play would become Romeo and Juliet. At the beginning of the film is titled Romeo and Ethel, the Pirate's Daughter. And so we also cut to Viola, who is the daughter of a wealthy merchant. She's a huge fan of Shakespeare and decides to audition for the play disguised as a man, because at that time women were not allowed to participate in theater.
Yeah.
And so she ends up cast as Romeo. Right after she finds out her parents arranged a marriage to a wealthy lord, so Shakespeare and Viola end up meeting at a ball and fall for each other there. Then she reveals that she's disguised as a man to be in the show. They just have a torrid affair everywhere. Like they are literally just going at it any chance they get.
Yeah.
Like there are moments in the film where they're in rehearsal. As part of the rehearsal, Viola will just step off stage and they instantly start making out. So as their love goes on, you kind of see the elements of that like end up in Romeo and Juliet. Then someone in the theater catches them because again they are doing this everywhere, and so they tell them to Lord Viola's engaged to. They're forced to move theaters since that theater is now afraid of getting in trouble. They end up performing in front of the Queen with Viola in attendance. They're suddenly just missing some actors, so Shakespeare and Viola play Romeo and Juliet respectively. The Queen absolves them of crimes, but tells Viola to just go to her arranged marriage, and that's the end. Now, this was directed by John Madden, whose biggest credit outside of this is the Exotic Marigold Hotel movies, and so the original script was written by Mark Norman, who this is his last credit. I believe he just retired after this. They had on Edward Zwick to direct, who's best known for directing Glory and Blood Diamond. and they originally had Julia Roberts attached to be Viola, and so. And so Zwick actually didn't like Norman's script entirely, so they brought on Tom Stoppard, who's mainly a playwright, to rewrite it. And they started going into production at Universal in 1991. They already started building sets and making costumes. They did not cast a Shakespeare yet because Julia Roberts insisted only Daniel Day-Lewis could play Shakespeare. Daniel Day-Lewis did not want to play Shakespeare, so everyone lost their jobs.
I agree with her. Yeah. This movie shouldn't have been made. That was the issue with the whole movie. It was no Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I imagine that that's going to be an excuse in the future. Like Daniel Day-Lewis is retired and someone's just going to pitch him with like, what if we create your performance using all your past performances and AI? And then Daniel Day-Lewis may actually just punch him in the face.
He's just like, what? So you're saying I'll have to act like a robot for the rest of my life? I'll have to have teenagers come up to me and give me their homework as a prompt and I'll answer it them, thus degrading the whole education system as a whole? No? Okay.
I mean, the thing is, Daniel Day-Lewis is such a method actor. If you got him to play an AI character, I think AI would just be fixed. Like, he would be so good at being AI that every AI startup would just use him as a model.
I want Daniel Day-Lewis to play Daniel Day-Lewis in a movie about Daniel Day-Lewis, just so he has to try and method act himself and he implodes due to the irony.
Yeah. It would be the first time he's working and his wife has her husband home. But yeah, after Daniel Day-Lewis declined, it got canceled at Universal, which ended up costing them about $6 million because they already started building stuff. Then Miramax picked it up later, and rest is history. So this movie came out December 11th, 1998. On a budget of $25 million, it made $289 million at the box office. Currently stands at a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes and 7.1 on IMDb. It won 7 Oscars, including Best Supporting Actress for Judi Dench, who notably only had 8 minutes of screen time.
Dame Judi Dench. Sorry, I read that and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to throw out the dame.
Like, I don't know how those titles work.
Isn't a dame just like the female version of a knight, essentially?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I just remember for a while, like, because I watched the NBA, Charles Barkley would go by Sir Charles Barkley, and I thought he was just doing it as a joke. I didn't realize at some point he was knighted, so he gets to say,
wait, he was knighted?
Apparently, I don't know. Again, this could all be one joke that has gone too far in my head.
Okay.
All right.
I really don't think I think you have to be British to be knighted. And it is the female version of a knight.
Okay. Again, on this podcast, we only somewhat fact check, so don't believe that. It also won Best Actress for Gwyneth Paltrow, as well as Best Picture. Like, people talk about it upsetting Saving Private Ryan so much. People overlook Gwyneth Paltrow's win was also a huge upset. Cate Blanchett was the front runner for Elizabeth. But yeah, that is the big reason that we're talking about it today, because very notably, this was the first Oscar campaign people akin to similar to a political campaign. Harvey Weinstein, who at the time was the head of Miramax, was very much full throttle in this. I know now he's best known as a sexual predator. At the time, he was just known as a corporate bully. This was the first time they kind of crafted a narrative around Oscar campaign. He went around talking about how, like, they're the small studio against these big guys, and like went around basically whining and dining all all these Academy voters to try and charm them, and it ended up working. So it set the precedent for the future, and which is why now we have like all these crazy Oscar campaigns.
Yeah, but is that why we have everything going on with Wicked, essentially?
It's like that's probably part of it. The most egregious one in like recent years to me was Bradley Cooper for Maestro last year, because I mean he was like doing interviews with Leonard Bernstein's actual family, talking about like how he felt like he was one of them. And it's like, this just feels gross.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time for our opening statements. Chris will be arguing why Saving Private Ryan rightfully should have won, and I will be arguing that the Academy made the right decision.
Saving Private Ryan revolutionized the genre at its release with its gritty approach that focused on realism over everything else. It's the first film to portray hell as hell and deserve credit from the Academy for doing so.
May have called Shakespeare in Love's win over Saving Private Ryan a decision that aged poorly immediately and the result of corporate bullying. If you want to say this film didn't deserve the Oscar, you could make some great points. However, the Oscars absolutely deserve Shakespeare in Love. As the most influential award in American cinema, it insists on cementing its place in film history. That includes the highs and lows. Saving Private Ryan is the public opinion, but this award going to a bully campaign is much more reflective of the industry.
So you're not even going to argue it's a better movie?
Nope. Like we did. Yeah, Saving Private Ryan is the movie we all want. This is the movie the Oscars deserve to have stamped on them.
You're not even going to say like it's a win for queers everywhere?
I gave. Is it a win for queers? This is Shakespeare fan fiction.
All right, yeah, then it's a win for queers. We've been writing Shakespeare fan fiction for a long time. I don't know how you make a movie like Shakespeare in Love and not have sexual identity be somewhere in it.
Because it was the 90s.
It was the end of the 90s at the last peak of metrosexuality.
Okay,
you could have gotten it by.
Okay, we have to remember at this point, Ellen was still canceled just for being gay. Like they were not that progressive.
When did Boys Don't Cry come out?
Boys Don't Cry, where they have a woman playing a trans man.
Yeah, and he 1999.
Okay, so
apparently you can do that, but you can't throw one little twink into Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah. Okay. I will also say maybe if the Academy just rewarded more comedies in general, they wouldn't have to resort to like awarding bullshit comedies. Because before this, the last comedy to win Best Picture was Annie Hall. Yeah, and that was 1977.
And didn't that pretty much invent rom-coms as a genre?
It did invent rom-coms,
modern tropes.
Yeah, a lot of modern tropes. Because I feel like pretty much every Woody Allen movie I've ever seen has like a Woody Allen insert character, and so that's how. And so I feel like that it really got the ball rolling on that whole nice guy trope.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it's to the point where like the last movie that could be considered a comedy that won Best Picture was Coda a few years ago, and I wouldn't really, and that's not like a laugh out loud comedy. It definitely has funny moments, but it's also like a tearjerker at times.
Yeah, just no one respects funny people. We can just accept that comedies are dying off as they are. We don't really have to like make a big stand against it. No one wants to bet on them. No one wants to hear any jokes.
I mean, it's to a point where like I did look up lists of like comedies to win Best Picture, and Parasite came up.
Yo, that's a laugh fest. I was cracking up in the theaters watching Parasite.
Yeah, I know. It really it is like how every year, like with the Golden Globes, because they separate comedy and dramas. Like studios really stretch what a comedy is. Like honestly, going through that list, I just played that clip of Damon going last year. I won Best Actor in a Comedy for The Martian, which is funnier than anything in The Martian.
Saving Private Ryan created a bunch of filming conventions specifically for war that were so well done, and like that not only were they used in pretty much every single war movie following, but also in most action movies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, no. It was definitely influential in that. It was definitely very impactful. However, like being influential usually doesn't lead to Oscar wins, because that generally happens years after the fact. I mean, we can look at the fact that Stanley Kubrick and Alfred Hitchcock have no Oscar wins. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure like one of Stanley Kubrick's big movies, I think The Shining, was actually nominated for a Razzie when it came out.
What does Nolan have an Oscar win?
He has an Oscar win for Oppenheimer.
Oh.
Yeah, which also maybe if we gave it to him for like Inception or The Dark Knight, we don't have to like give everything to Oppenheimer.
So like there's usually a makeup year when they end up screwing over a movie or like a director. Did they give a makeup to Steven Spielberg or Tom Hanks? Like I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio getting The Revenant was a makeup year for him not getting Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah, I mean there are definitely like legacy Oscars, as they're commonly referred to, where it's like this performance in particular didn't really deserve it, but like you've been around long enough, you gave us so much, where it's like everyone in the Academy just likes you and wants you to win. I mean, the thing is, Steven Spielberg, I believe he already he won Best Director for Saving Private Ryan, and he already had a film win Best Picture in Schindler's List. So I don't think they were really keen to giving him a makeup or legacy Oscar after this.
Okay, did you like the casting of William Shakespeare? Who was that? Ethan Hunt, I think?
No, it wasn't Ethan Hunt. It was Joseph Fiennes. I'm not. His most notable role is still Shakespeare in Love. A lot.
Wait, was Ben Affleck in both of these movies?
Ben Affleck was in Shakespeare in Love. I actually loved him in Shakespeare in Love. I thought he did that character well, because he played this like very popular actor at the time who just walked in like, you're lucky to have me on your set, and then like he kind of acted as the voice of reason throughout the show, just to point out like how ridiculous things are. Like there's a moment where Shakespeare steps in during rehearsal and does a scene with Viola where he kisses her, and they kiss for a long time, and he's just like, okay, how about this? I write the play and you do the acting. Like,
there's some good lines in that movie. It wasn't like a terrible movie. It just like if I were with someone and they suggested watching it, and like for some reason I had to kind of like go along with what they are saying, I'd be like, like I'd just like make a face the whole movie. But by the end, I'd be like, that wasn't that bad. But like, we could have watched something else.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like like the Oscars attempts to predict the future often backfire. But I also think like the Academy in general is terrible at predicting the future, because I mean, especially when it comes to you look at, particularly when they come to diversity, you know, when they give Best Picture to stuff like Crash and Green Book, it's like they give it to these movies that I kind of refer to as diversity empty calories, where it's like you don't actually watch those movies because you think it's going to have an impact. You watch these movies so you, as someone not part of this marginalized community, can be like, oh, I supported this, and feel better about yourself without thinking about it at all.
Yeah. Movie fucking rock though. Just we need to take a second to honor some like great Oscar wins. Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
Spectacular Best Picture. Totally deserved it.
Yes.
Parasite too. What was Parasite? It was like neck and neck with another movie.
Parasite. I thought Parasite was the front runner that year. I know that was the same year as Joker came out, because I remember afterwards I saw the neckbeards on the internet being like, how did Joker lose to this Korean movie? And it's like, did you even watch it? No. All right, so I'm looking up now. So Best Picture that year, I feel like it was a really good list. You had The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Ford versus Ferrari. It was a really solid year. I think Parasite was just above them, and like any other year, a lot of these movies would be in hot contention.
Ford versus Ferrari was a great movie. So was Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
I probably would have picked Jojo Rabbit over, because then we would have had another comedy in there too.
Oh yeah, true. But I mean, like going back to that point, I think a lot. I do think like the win, giving it to Shakespeare and Love, did also like set the precedent of like, smaller films could win. This is an avenue it could happen, because I mean, if we want to view like Oscars and awards in general as just like self-congratulatory stuff from Hollywood, even if you believe that, the benefit is it gives more recognition and brings more attention to these movies, actors, directors that could really benefit from it. Because going back to Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's such a weird movie. It was not going to be like a big blockbuster hit with and gain the recognition it did without an awards campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it came out pretty before the awards.
Yeah,
it was really popular.
Yeah, it came out before the awards were really popular, but the awards campaign like kept it in people's consciousness for a year.
That movie fucks me up.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes with Shakespeare in Love, because I mean, again, it's Shakespeare fan fiction. There's definitely references to his work in there where if you're a Shakespeare nerd, you're going to appreciate it, and it's gonna fly over everyone else's head. So it's like when your target audience is just people who really love Shakespeare, you are put in a box. And I think it's good that like these movies that like are fundamentally in a small box get a wider audience.
That's true. Can we also just like talk about how Saving Private Ryan was so good it completely reshaped American opinions on World War II? Or maybe not reshaped, but renewed interest, and then like as a result reshaped, because basically following Vietnam, Americans had such a negative view of the American military that it started moving back into our view of World War II veterans and World War II.
Yeah, and I definitely think it did a lot for that, because also the big thing is that a lot of American war movies, particularly with World War II, tend to just glorify it and be all about patriotism. Where this one got real and like put a lot of like moral gray areas in there, because like the entire time like they're asking is just like, essentially, why are we valuing one life over other people's, and it forces like the other characters to have like kind of these opinions and thoughts that you realize they shouldn't have. Like like aside from the action, one of the moments from that movie that really stuck with me when they're at that one camp going through the dog tags of fallen soldiers, hoping they see like James Francis Ryan in there, and like the other soldiers coming back from the battlefield are watching them doing this, and it takes one of them to realize like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this in front of those guys, and like that, like that's one of the moments that hit me in this.
Do you think it could be described as optimistic apocalypse now?
I I haven't seen Apocalypse Now in its entirety.
Oh, well, like the whole idea, they're in the war. It starts off and they're in the war, and then ultimately they have to go on a long detour mission that involves a small unit of guys where they're slowly picked off as they reach their destination, only to reach essentially an objective unrelated to what they are originally doing. And then it ends with, in Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen doesn't die and he escapes to go tell the son, to go tell I forget the colonel's name that he was sent there to assassinate, like that basically that he was there doing work and like kind of give him an actual face behind what he was doing. And I feel like in this you have Tom Hanks' character go in there and he ultimately dies, but the difference is the cynicism versus the optimistic angle at the end.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, because I mean I think Steven Spielberg in general likes to have like at least a smidge of hope in his films, whereas Francis Ford Coppola just seems like he go, sometimes people die.
Oh, that movie's great. Apocalypse.
Yeah.
All right. They needed to do more with gender in Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah,
And sexual identity and like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think they could have done more of that, especially considering like you have a female character who has to disguise herself as a man in order to pursue something she loves, and that's taken away because her status as a woman essentially makes her a bargaining chip for in like deals and marriage. So I do think there's a lot more they could have done with that, because it's funny. I remember there was the first scene where Shakespeare and Viola sleep with each other, and as he's undressing her, they get down to like the binder she uses to press down her chest. I'm like, that's gender affirming care.
Yeah. They could have had something really special, and they just like kind of didn't even touch the opportunity.
Yeah, like there's definitely like a lot of commentary they left on the floor.
Like they could have literally had Queen Elizabeth being like, "Well, I see no wife here. All I see is a male actor who's gonna spend the rest of her life or his life fucking his husband while performing on stage." Because she was already playing like a chippy kind of like, "Ooh, I'm the fun queen," like.
Yeah, that was one thing, because I remember like before this I read that Dame Judi Dench had one of the shortest screen times to win an Oscar, and I was like, how? It's like after seeing this, it was like, okay, I could see how people vote for this.
She played it well.
Oh yeah, no, she had like that perfect ounce of authority, yet like behind the cracks you can see her expression.
Yeah.
But I mean, still voting for Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan it's like, for all the people Harvey Weinstein took to dinner, I gotta know, what was the meal like? Well, like after Shakespeare in Love won, I hope some restaurant was still like, yeah, this food is so good it'll get you to make bad decisions.
I don't know which one I'd want to be in less, living in Victorian or like Shakespearean time or living through World War II. They both seem fucking miserable.
Yeah, well, because also the period of World War II, it's like there are so many movies about that era just for different angles. It's it's like, oh, of course it sucked to be a soldier, and then they have the Holocaust movies, but also they'll have movies that's just like, oh yeah, I just live in this town and it sucked. Like I mean, The Brutalist is nominated for a bunch of Oscars this year. That movie is like this guy got separated from his wife. He was a respected architect. Now he comes to America and he has to just like shovel for a construction company to start out with.
Oh, did he invent brutalism?
No.
Oh, okay. You made it. I thought he was gonna like get back into architecture.
I mean, he does get back into architecture.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, but it's like every movie just makes it seem like, yeah, this was just a shady time in history to be alive, and Victoria England was like a shady time to be anything other than a straight white man.
Okay, A League of Their Own, that was World War II, right? Like the whole league sprung up because everyone was off to war, and they needed.
Yep.
And I was like, they need to have a movie just about like lesbians going absolutely wild while the men are at war. And then I was like, oh, okay, they have a League of Their Own.
Yeah, it's like, I guess that is one angle of World War II. It's like, look what women can do when men aren't around.
Like, just give me like a movie that's set and it's like at the beginning, it's a wife waving her husband off to war, and she's like kind of unhappy and her life's not going great. And then she just starts fucking her neighbor, and she just comes so often fucking her neighbor, her female neighbor, and her life is like spectacular. Like she just like stops reading the letters and shit. And the movie ends on her husband coming home and he's just like all fucked up from war. And she's just like, fuck, now I have to go back to like this life.
I'm sure if we dive deep enough on the internet, that is just Rosie the Riveter fan fiction.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, you want to get into concessions?
Yeah, what are we doing for concessions for this one? Are we saying why the other one is decent, or are we saying, well, ours are bad? Bad?
You know what? You can do whatever you want. I have mine written down.
Okay.
I just go against my points. Like, here are three arguments why Saving Private Ryan should have won.
Okay. I'll do Shakespeare in Love.
Okay.
Gwyneth Paltrow looked good in drag. She can pull the look off. I liked it. I thought it was hot. That's part of the reason I was so disappointed. I was just like, oh, yeah, why are they taking everything off when they fuck? Like Shakespeare should just be like, whoa, leave it on. Like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah, I should have looked up. It's like, was fake mustaches actually that good in the 1500s?
Okay, that's what I really got caught up on too. I'm like, how easy would it be to get a fake mustache in the 1500s?
My first concession, Saving Private Ryan has much stronger character arcs than Shakespeare in Love. Like, I mean, despite the fact it centers on like a bigger cast, it adds so much character to guys in such a short amount of time, and actually fulfills those arcs pretty well. And it's like you feel for them, even like on that opening scene on Omaha Beach. They add so many little things where it's like it makes you feel like certain guys are familiar and then they die, and that makes it feel so much more impactful.
Dude, when they open up that boat and the entire boat gets cleared out by machine gun fire, like there's not a single fucking person left alive in it. That was brutal.
Oh yeah. Also, fun fact about that, for that scene, they casted a lot of veterans as extras. So anytime you saw someone like missing an arm or a leg, that was an actual amputee who lost it in battle.
That's when the guy who like gets his arm blown off and then he picks up his own arm and starts walking off. In Shakespeare in Love, the Weasley little guy who was marrying the Gwyneth Paltrow, he played a good weasel.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about Colin Firth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good portrayal of a just straight up weasel who also like wins in the end. But like his win is hollow because he knows like no one likes him.
Yeah, because it was like that perfect portrayal of like he's made to hate, but also you're like, I've met that rich kid before.
Yeah.
Next, Saving Private Ryan did a good job depicting war and not glorifying it like a lot of films. Because I think at the heart of Tom Hanks' character takes care of a lot of it, because it's very clear his objective is to just like get as many guys home back to their families as possible,
Yeah.
and that's what he sees as his mission.
All right, I've got to come up with this one. I guess Dame Judi Dench deserved an Oscar for that ridiculous redonk of hers. Big old butt. Big old fucking booty. You know? I don't know.
I just find it funny that she essentially just showed up for a weekend and got an Oscar.
Yeah, good for her. It's better than Michael Caine not showing up for his Oscar to show up for 2 months of work that shouldn't even be seen. How could we talk about the Oscars without bringing up Michael Caine not going to his Oscars to record Jaws 4: The Revenge?
Again, he apparently got paid well for it.
Yeah.
My last concession: the Oscars just should not have awarded that awards campaign. As mentioned earlier, it was like the big campaign that was akin to a political campaign. It set the precedent for the awards season we now know and do not love. Like I think if they had lost, it like the industry would be better for it, and those of us who just pay attention to the industry would be better for it. You know, this it cements it as like one of the worst Oscar wins until Amelia Perez wins anything this year.
Yep. All right. Did you watch Amelia Perez?
Yes. I watched it. After I watched it, I immediately messaged my friend who's hosting the Oscar party I'm going to, and I was like, "Hey, just let you know, if this wins anything, I will boo the TV." Like, because I know like there's a lot of think pieces on like how it's transphobic and racist, but it's also just bad. like I feel like people shouldn't overlook that.
All right, you want to hit these closing statements?
Shakespeare in Love is the result of a dirty Oscar campaign that set the precedent for what's to come in the award season as we currently know them, which is why it deserves to be remembered. The awards landscape was shifting this way either way, but now we have a definite turning point. It's not the winner we wanted, but it's the winner they deserved.
Saving Private Ryan shaped filming conventions that carry on to this day. And it was so important that ultimately it also shaped how we view World War II. Much like most of American veterans, this film was grossly overlooked and forgotten about by the officials responsible for doing that.
Do you have any predictions for Oscar Sunday? Or
Amelia Perez sweeps.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Amelia Perez completely strike out, but at the same time, like considering what I just talked about, I do think like 5 years from now, we do need to remember it's like, hey, we let this movie get 13 nominations.
Who do you think's gonna win? Best Picture.
I want to say either Honora or The Brutalist. However, the thing is, it's a weird award season. There doesn't seem to be a clear runaway front runner. So I'm also scared Amelia Perez could sneak in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's gonna win.
Yeah, she's gonna win. And then tweet the most insane racist thing about it. Yeah, it's crazy. They just happened to find like the Spanish Caitlyn Jenner for that movie.
All right, let's end on that.
All right, this has been another episode of Film versus Movie. I'm Belton DeLaine-Facey.
I'm Chris Shurr.
And we will see you all next time.